Hello folks, Babru.com here, are in the builds at Mike as usually. Now we're gonna wrap up Eldritch Moon for limited and constructed, so we're gonna complete the spoiler today. This is roughly where I left you last time around, and here we're entering the territory of a bunch of pretty solid limited cards. I do like all these creatures that produce those Eldrazi horrors and stuff, because it's decent value. Basically with the Maniac for 4 mana you get an 0-2 and 3-2, so you get 2 bodies to block or like sacrifice or utilize them. And then with the Sentry in the late game you get a 4-2 for 3 mana, which is quite okay, and then when it dies you get a 3-2, so yeah, quite solid in those grindy value games. All these creatures are pretty good. The Zombie Hound is pretty solid as well, as it's a decent 3 drop, and it's actually pretty decent as a top deck in the late game as well, because it's 4 power body and they will have trouble blocking it a little bit. Then the Brazen Wills is quite okay, just your average creature for 3 drop basically, for limited I mean. And then I like what Vexen Moon does. It's gonna be I think a pretty low pick, but in the right deck is gonna be fantastic. If you have the right deck for it, it's gonna be pretty amazing. Choking Restraints is okay. It's a pacifism for 3 mana. The upside is that you can actually, for a bunch of mana sacrificing it, actually permanently get rid of the creature, and it's a very mediocre card even for limited. It's still a removal. The only good upside for paying 3 mana for this instead of something like 2 is that it's in late game, if you're desperate for delirium, it helps you achieve that, so you can just sacrifice it to get delirium to get more bonuses. This place is good, for example, with the cards like right above it, the Maniac. You get to flicker all those cards, plus if we go a little bit up, we can see the zombie that produces a 1/1 flyer when it enters. So probably it's gonna be some blue-black deck, I guess, and returning some creatures from your graveyard, things like that. So Game the Temptation, yeah, it's good. People are saying that a card like this and basically instant divination for the same cost and just lost 2 life, it's okay. It's gonna be played right now. Read the Bones, it's kind of a bit better because black decks are a bit of tap out controls because of Planeswalkers and Goblin Dark Dwellers, etc. So they're not really holding up much mana every turn, but it's still good, especially after rotation. This will replace basically Read the Bones. It's just that when your game plan is outvaluing and outgrinding your opponent because of all those 2-for-1s like Kolaghan's Command and just different spells, and because of Goblin Dark Dwellers, you don't really mind your key spells to be in sorcery speed, so there is that. Paradise Hostility, okay trick, for 1 mana plus 3 to attack, very basic, and then giving it first strike is pretty good. So like for 4 mana you get a pretty decent trick, but you get to choose. It's not super exciting, but it's quite playable. 3 to Vigilance for 3 is quite acceptable as well, and especially because it has a decent creature type. I mean human, like you get all those synergies there too. Borrowed Grace is quite okay. Of course the one with red flashback that we saw in the Turn Masters, I mean Reladin Sisters, is definitely much better, but this can it's good on the offensive, but it's also good on the defensive because you can basically make your guys a bit tougher. So, and because you get to choose or choose both, so it's decent cards. There are not that many token generators in this set, but there are some. I really don't like Drag Under. I would feel much better about it if it would be an instant. But 3 mana bounce a creature and draw at sorcery is not what I'm looking for. But I suppose I would play it in grindy control decks in limited. Strange Augmentation, it's okay. Although, more I look at it, with Delirium it's like 1 mana +2/+2. If it will give like the creature manas or something like that, and this card will cost like 2 mana or something, or like double black, whatever, but give the creature manas, this will be actually pretty good, but as it stands, not so much. Well, Imperial, as much as we're really seeking for good 1-drops for vampires in standard, but this is a decent 1-drop for vampires in draft and sealed. It's quite an okay card. It's because of the pump ability, it's actually decent top deck. It's not dead late game. But Cutter's Grid, it's alright. Hexproof actually matters. Yeah, I think it will be played in limited decks more than you would expect, actually. A decent pump spell. Not quite, of course, like Wine's a Vastwood, but still good. Yeah, Fiendbinder, quite okay. It's a human, so you get those synergies. 3/4, and you can tap a creature when this attacks. Yeah, pretty decent. Pretty decent. Wouldn't be like very high as a pick, but not too low either. That's for sure. This is an interesting zombie. So while I have a lot of doubts about the future of zombies in standard, but in draft and sealed it's gonna be quite okay. And 3/3/4 is actually not that bad. And milling 4 actually is not more about like reanimation. It's more about switching on delirium, basically. So I would imagine there will be a range of like delirium decks going from, I don't know, maybe blue-green to black-green to blue-black, etc., or like all three colors, if you get at least some fixing. Like Terrarian, for example, a very good example, switching on delirium and also fixes up your mana as well. Supplicant is quite decent. Bear in mind that it's not like just them, it's each player, so you have to kind of be careful about this, but I do like the card, it's quite okay. Outburst is decent combo trick for 1 mana at instant, so I do like it. I think I would play it way more than I would think initially. Quite decent. Then, so yeah, the Bloodbriar, unlike another like 4-drop in black, this one actually might make it to standard to the black-green aristocrat. It's kinda like Nanduka Husk, not quite exactly, but it works on permanence, and it's already like at basic like 2/3. Okay, it's not as explosive as Husk, but it's more like reliant consistent, or kind of like more interesting in the longer battle, because its counters in the last power overall, but it stays, so yeah, you'll feel much more comfortable attacking with it like every single turn, basically, even if you would have not a huge board. The Paladin is okay. 3/4 lifelink for 5 is acceptable. Not super exciting, but quite okay. I like this Spirit, by the way. It actually might be a decent sideboard card in the standard version of Spirits. Like, kinda like 1/3 unblockable and for 2 mana, and it freezes a guy. So it's probably as good as we get, like, as for kind of tapping freezing creatures. Of course, merfolks were at best in that regard with Timebinder and High Tides, whatever. A merfolk, the one that just bounces tapped creature. But yeah, this is acceptable. So it's a creature that I might consider for standard spirits in sideboard, that's for sure. Very basic limited card, this weird vampire. Free at instant speed because of madness is quite okay. And this next card is also pretty sick. Madness 1 on this thing is pretty brutal. I really like it. Because of madness it can be like an instant trick. It's quite okay. This Wolfkin Bond basically reminds me of a similar white aura, but that one gave vigilance to the creature it enchanted. Here on the plus side, the token is a wolf, so you get those synergies, but I mean it's still a decent card, but I don't know, vigilance on the enchanted creature was so huge because you would have a creature that would be quite often bigger than a lot of your opponent's creatures, so you would have a lot of good attacks and a lot of good blocks on their turn as well. Cleansing, well, you have to bring such cards into the set with a lot of enchantments in it. Really like the spontaneous mutation. I kind of think that this one is much better to say as a kind of like white source to plowshare. There was a time when we had in a couple of sets this similar aura for one blue that was -3/-0. This can be potentially more, and it has freaking flash, so I won't be surprised if this actually sees constructed play. Because yeah, unlike the -3/-0, this one actually can be a pretty decent top deck in the long game. And like flash, it's just absurd. Come on. On a card like this for 1 mana, it's sick. Certain death, well, it's acceptable. There's actually not a ton of removal in this set. There are lots of tricks and pumps and stuff like this, but not a ton of like hard removal or things like that, so that's good. I do like Prophetic Ravens. In fact, for 1 mana it's a lot of value. Like, you can just play a small dork, put this thing on it, and then immediately use it as a looter, or you can put a giant creature and then put this on it to give it haste to smash the same turn. And then, yeah, it gives you a lot of flexibility. It's potentially all the value just for 1 mana. Grapple, well, I do like that it's instant. I do like that it costs 1 mana. I do like that it's just green, so it's castable, but I don't know, you're digging just 3 cards deep, which is kind of okay, and I do like that you can just return something that was already there, not the stuff you put in there. So let's just say that if there will be some kind of Reanimator rock junk deck, then this card will be definitely played in there, because it's a kind of instant cantrip that fills your graveyard as well, for Delirium as well, by the way. So yeah, actually, let's just say that now you would play this in the green black Seasons Pass deck and Gift of Murasa in the sideboard, because this one is a much better main deck card, just for all matchups, because Gift is just the part about 6 life was relevant against all the aggros. Slayer is okay, at worst it's a 3/2 for free, which is okay, and it's a human as well. I don't expect the auras and equipments in the limited to make a huge impact, but there are quite a few of them, and some are actually quite decent. I think one was like constructed playable. With all this returning stuff, is, I don't know. The good thing is that it returns auras, so there is that. For example, if they just chomp with the creature with a mutation on it, you get to return that thing. So yeah, I think it's actually a very good limited card. Um, the Hunter, well, it's a functional reprint, they just made it a spirit. And flyers are pretty good on this set, I think, because there's a lot of like small ground creatures. So tempoing them out in the air is a pretty good plan. This Lewis Dragoon is quite decent. Like I like it as a limited card for sure. It reminds me of the White Hound in Odyssey, I think, where you gave your hound for this card like a first strike for a turn. Then Thermal Alchemist is crazy. I don't care that it's just Defender. It has no power anyway, of course you can buff it, and it's a shame that you can't attack with it, but I'm not gonna feel too bad about it, because you get to ping, and you can ping like each opponent, so into you had a giant shield during the release weekend, like this will be pretty sick. And then yeah, untapping for Nessa Sorcery is pretty big. It's not quite like Electrode, but that one was 2 colors and 3 mana, and yeah, it was great that it could um, ping creatures. But then again, I mean that card was pretty sick, I think, for limited, and it's actually so tiny bit of play and constructed, and really enjoyed that deck with Electrode and with old Ravnica. Anyhow, so there's this Werewolf. I really don't like that it's a defender. I really don't like that. Unlike with the Pinger, this one actually stinks. I mean, it's still a decent card, and it's a mana dork, which is a rarity in this set, basically. On the plus side, it's not that late game, so for 7 you can transform it into 4/6, etc. This one is quite okay, so basically signifying that Spirits is a decent archetype in Draft and Sealed. 2/2 for 2 and pumps a creature for +1/+1 when it comes in. Also makes all the blue blinks effects and stuff relevant, and all the black reanimations. Turn aside is okay. Very decent, like cyber card. I say this word too much. Well, sorry. I'll try not to. Yeah, zombie 2 mana 1/3 in some decks is already acceptable, where you just need something that can block 2 power guys in turn 2, for example. And it switches on Delirium again, so that's the main part of all the creatures like this, as for limited. Innkeeper is kind of strange, but if you can manage like to couple it with the captive so that you can play it, let's say, on the play or in turn 3, your opponent's not gonna be very happy. I mean, at worst, it's 4 mana 3/3, which is acceptable. I do like the Gesic Prowler because it's a 1 mana 2/1, which is not that in the late game. So yeah, basically a bunch of niche archetypes for standard to get some decent 1-drops, although I would still really like to see at least one more playable constructed 1-drop for vampires, that's for sure. Probably in black, because we're now pushed towards that with triple black madness cost and double black cost for vampire lords and stuff. So instead of just going slightly black, we have to go heavy black now if we want to make vampires playable. I really had high hopes for vamps as a kind of like flyers / burn deck in standard, but it didn't really get on the spotlight anywhere, so maybe the beefier, more flyery, more madnessy version will actually make it to standard. I mean, climb at least to a solid tier 2 deck. Spectre Reserves is like compared to all the similar spells, you either had it as an instant or it was Lingering Souls, but Lingering Souls was totally busted. Gain to Life is kinda irrelevant here. I guess the main cast that is spirits, and coupled with some spirits that say that when a spirit comes in, you get to tap a creature, so yeah, you can get decent value out of it, I guess. Scab is pretty good. We've seen such creatures before, and they were proving to be good for limited, and this one has a provis as a bonus, so pretty satisfying creature for limited as common. Recruitment is okay. I don't know, I don't really believe into zombies in limited all that much, but they're still like much better as a fang than in standards, I feel like. Bandgun is pretty tricky, probably gonna be a very low pick in drafts, and yeah, but if you have a lot of vampires, this card is good, so it's like high effort, high reward kind of card. It sucks that it's a sorcery, but 3 mana removal and draw a card is pretty good. Very glad to see Prey Upon being reprinted. It's just so great, and even though we have Dramalko's command, but that one's gonna go away after the next with the next set, so in a few months we're gonna lose all the commands, so we'll have to turn our backs on Prey Upon, which was the start of all these fighting club and all the fight cards, and it was pretty broken, and it did make constructed appearances. Pretty glad to see the reprints of the priest. There are a bunch of humans in the set and in Innistrad in Shadows, but it's a very good card, so very high pickable. Sometimes in certain packs even first pickable, actually. Take inventory, well, very sad that it's sorcery, but it might still see play, but probably not until rotation, I feel like. Yeah, so the scavengers are the part of this Graphrats duo, and both are good, I think, on their own. Well, at least acceptable, and when you get them together it's just crazy. I really like to make Mischief. Compare it to kind of Arc Lightning in a way. It's probably worse than Arc Lightning, but yeah, in limited it might be as good as Arc Lightning. I would say. Although with this, like, you can't quite kill like a 3 toughness creature straight ahead, for example. But at common, for limited, I totally accept this card. Totally accept Vanilla 2/2 as a vampire. Very decent aura. Helps to switch on Delirium, so white actually is kind of like supporting Delirium quite a bit, so it's not just like Sultai-ish colors, so white is in the mix as well, to help you out. Yeah, you can just sacrifice a land and give the creature jump. Out of many of similar auras, this one actually might be the most playable among the buff ones. Yeah, Qatar is okay. Basically, when it attacks, you get a 2/3 for 2 mana, which is pretty decent. Sorry. Board, Man of Valence, well, for common at instant, I'll take it. I'll take it. 3 mana, save a guy, basically kill another guy. It's okay. It's okay. Could be a pretty good 2 for 1, I would say, for 3 mana at instant speed. Yeah. So yeah, the outcast, I think I talked about it before. The cards like this basically define limited environment with many sets, basically, with many sets without a gigantic overshadowing theme. Yeah, Galvanic Bombardment, I think I talked about it too. It's just basically gonna replace the Fury Impulse once that rotates. Well, it's fine to use both alongside. Actually, I'm not sure what's essentially better. The thing is that if you have space, For 4 copies of such a card, you will definitely play Bombardment. If you just have like 1 or 2 slots for a card like this, then yeah, you're playing Fairy Impulse until the ladder rotates. Standard Barrier, yeah, it's okay. Not super excited about it, but it enables Madness and Delirium in white, which is not something to sneeze upon. A Tootsie Flyer for free with a single color mana has always been great, and Blue-Eyed Skies is always a safe archetype to go into in Limited. Well, Emerald, yes, we were talking about all the green ramp decks and standard, maybe even like blue-red Eldrazi control, and then all the green or blue Trons in Modern as well. I do like the Emerge bombs, that's for sure. They're all like pretty powerful cards potentially, and Decimator basically impersonates Crater Hoof Behemoth. It's not quite it, but it's okay. The big catch is that you can actually get it into play real cheap. So that's the big part about it, compared to Crater Hoof, for which you just had to ramp quite a lot and actually have a lot of like creatures to make it great. This one is kind of like more balanced, so it's like less requirements, although it's not gonna work best in a deck with just a bunch of really small cheap creatures, so you need some kind of like a bit more expensive ones to make Emerge like real good. Yeah, the prototype, people have been telling on forums that in the 8-track deck in Modern, this Mono Black discard deck might love it, but might not, because you can't attack with it straight ahead. On the other hand, the deck actually has a lot of things to do in the early turns, like killing the opponent's creatures or discarding them extensively, things like that, or maybe like playing like a Bitter Blossom or something like that. Scourge basically is gonna be a staple in Legacy of Food Chain, I believe, yeah. So you had the Griffin that costs 4 mana, and yeah, it was pretty good. The good part about this compared to Griffin is that Free Flyer in Legacy doesn't really matter a whole lot, but the thing is that this card is 1 mana cheaper, that's first, and then so you can kind of like do this 1 turn earlier, or let's say that you didn't draw your 4th land or something like that, and then it exiles whenever something targets it, which was not the case with the Griffin. So if they bolt the Griffin, or I don't know, swords it, and you don't have Food Chain in play, then you're kind of screwed, or maybe not. Well, having this kind of ability helps. I'm not super experienced with Food Chain, but I kind of feel strongly that that second ability matters. Soul Separator, I don't know. I might try it like in Limited in the control deck. Seems kind of okay, but kind of slow at the same time. Have to see. Maybe if I get tracked by it, then I'll have a stronger feeling about how to set it up properly. So the Stitches Grat is actually a card that I think might make it to constructed play, because it's so cheap, and it gives a big bonus, and yeah, like there are big drawbacks to it, that's for sure. Big price you have to pay, but I'm thinking about some kind of green-white hate bears, Death and Taxes kind of deck, and in green you have Scrib Ranger to untap the creature, so there is that. On the other hand, your mana is often freed up if you have a fast Aether Vial, and then swords are just better, even though they're slower a little bit, but it's hard to say. Sadly, no good ways to untap the creature in standard right now, not that I know of. But yeah, like I think the card is powerful, but yeah, you have to be careful about it. Definitely like the Maw. If you can sacrifice like high cost creature, then you get this chip into play very sometimes fast and play something else at the same turn, and you get a 6/4, and it's a 3 points life swing. So yeah, pretty good card. I think like one of those really nutty cards that would impact limited quite a lot. As well, these other uncommon emerge cards, quite like all of them. And this one that can return back instant sorcery back to hand could be potentially busted. There is a chance that it could see some play in something similar to the blue-red Eldrazi control in standard, for example. Right, what else is there like really catching the eye? Oh, they're all like pretty like decent, I told you, including the blue-green one. Fragment's gonna be pretty important because it's a fix for any color, and yeah, it can kind of act as a win condition as well if you can pick up some life gain cards and quite a bit of removal in high toughness creatures, for example. Terrarian is gonna be very important, as I told you, not that much of fixing, and it can be played in any deck, and it switches on Delirium, things like that. Griff is gonna be like one of the best commons for limited in the set, I feel like. All the multicolored cards are insane. Well, not like super insane, but like very good. Tami is great, but I don't exactly see her like in modern, for example. But she's gonna make some waves in standard, I feel like. Grimflare is quite interesting. I feel like he might see some play in constructed and even outside standards. Some modern decks might feel like they will be fine playing this card. Something tells me. But yeah, in standard they're decent. The problem is that black-green season pasts already play a bunch of very good 2-drops. But yeah, they might kind of like make some split and play some combination of this and advocates and the rest. This is probably the card for that deck as far as standards. This could help out what I mentioned, some junk reanimator deck. It could be just straight black-green, might be splashing the third color. But yeah, really like this card. Jizen Geralt, I don't know. Looks kinda powerful, but right now I don't know like where it would go at all. Ulrich is just what you want. It's not quite Hot Master, it's quite a bit different than Silverheart, but it's a very strong card. It deserves like the mythic status, and in terms of just the power level, and yeah, gonna be pretty scary. Really don't want to see those against me in limited, that's for sure. So Huron's Grace champion, probably just a sideboard card, but it might be a bit better than the just the mono white, like the 3-drop that gave out lifelink to your creatures. Especially better if you can find a good build with green white and you don't play collected company, for example, because of Coco, like you might still just play in the sideboard Dabber free drop that gives out lifelink but no pumps, and doesn't have like flash and lifelink. So yes, Spell Queller is one of the cards that makes me want to build spirits in standard. Just so sick. When it enters, you get to basically get exile some good spell. There are a lot of spells that fall into this 4 mana or less category, that's for sure. And then, yeah, it's fine that it gives back that spell. But the thing is, it's gonna be a very tempo-ish deck. It's gonna be like blue-red flyers, and okay, you don't have burn spells, but your deck is like very synergetic. And you would have this plus the 1-drop that can like counter an instant or sorcery. So yeah, it's gonna be a sick deck. I'm so looking forward to playing it and building it, and hopefully I can build it quickly enough. And yeah, Bloodhole Priest is pretty sick, that's for sure. Really like the card, really one of the reasons to play vampires in standards. I feel like it's gonna make it a little bit hard to just use the first ability, but she triggers also when she just enters the battlefield, so yeah, like you got a lot of value. And Campaign of Vengeance is really scaring me in a bit more aggressive black-white mid-range. Especially I'm scared if your opponent goes like, well, end of turn secure the waste for a lot, and then on their turn play this and just one turn kill you. That's kind of scary. So you're not gonna play this in really controlish black-white, but you will play it in a more aggressive version with more Eldrazi's in it. Also in Abzan Koku, in Abzan combo, this might be a good card in those like kind of aristocrats type stacks where you just flood the board with a lot of small guys and just then play this, and your opponent's not gonna be happy about it. Write Down, very solid card for aggro decks and limited, not really a constructed playable. Takes quite a bit of setup, but I think it's quite alright. This next one, you get a free 2 haste for 3 mana, okay, and then with Delirium, small creatures can't block this turn. So yeah, well, it also affects your small creatures. But you're not gonna play it on their turn most likely. Well, just be careful with collected company, because then if you forget about this and your opponent reminds you about this because it's a trigger that's beneficial for them, if you flip it at instant split on their turn off of collected company, so just be aware of that and play accordingly, or just choose a different creature from company altogether. But yeah, it could be a great sideboard card for aristocrats, a type of archetypes in the mirror type matches, so this potentially breaks them here. Miracle Geist, not gonna probably see constructed play because, come on, 4 mana. Basically, it's been proven that to be playable in those types of decks, in constructed, your dude like this should cost like 1, 2, or 3 mana. 4 is just like too much. That's beyond acceptable. Yeah, the card is good, and basically one of the defining cards of the blue-red spells archetype for drafts, which I would be probably looking forward to draft. I think the archetype is kind of deep, but this is one of the key cards you want to pick. The lands, yeah, like the battlements, I think I mentioned that in the first part, that um, if you're gonna play red-white humans with only a slight splash of red, then you're not playing this land. If you're playing this land plus the red creature to merge it, then it means that you have to adjust your mana base so you can't have like many double whites, double reds, etc. And you're probably gonna move towards something like red-white tokens or Naya tokens or something like this. Not sure like what is the scenario for making the Valley Academy playable. You can enlighten me in the comments below, etc. Rage Sanitarium is not quite like Lighthouse or Loot House from the past, but it's still alright. It's a bit sad that it's a legendary, but then yeah, you're probably gonna just play one, and then this actually is a card that can mill your opponent out because it's each player. So there is that side to it, and then any deck can play it and not just blue-red decks. So yeah, I think it will see play in modern and in standard, in control-ish grindy decks, or some really weird combo-ish decks as well. So there you have it, folks. Tell me what was important and I missed it, some interactions in terms of applications for the cards, and probably in limited I don't think I missed all that much for constructed. So yeah guys, so don't forget to subscribe us, so check out the channel, check out the website, follow me on Twitch, follow me on social media, and I'll see you guys in the next video, probably giving a bit more insight towards modern meta games and the past events and such. Just another episode of those kind of quick recaps. Okay, until the next sale, goodbye folks.